got him.
Easy now. Papa got this, make it happen.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finished change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to Seahawks Man-to-Man Podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael-Shawn and with my co-host, Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. You guys know where to follow me, so I'll skip right to shouting out our YouTube channel, Seahawks Man-to-Man on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on that. Chris, talk to him.
What is good, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that's CKID206.
All right, we are back. And we took a little bit of a break off after the draft, I think, around rookie minicamp, just to unwind a little bit. Also, let's be honest, guys, there wasn't a lot happening between rookie minicamp, which was the first weekend of May, and today, which is June 1st, right? There were just a lot of guys running around in in jerseys and shorts, no helmets, guys not even being able to contact each other on the field. Like, it was a lot of nothing, right? Like, a lot of installs, a bunch of boring stuff, no transactions, barely any signings, no trades. Like, it was a good time to chill. I mean, honestly, June is very similar. So he's going to do some chilling then too. Probably only do a couple episodes this month, do a little bit more chilling in July. Chris and I are both turning 30 in July, so we'll celebrate those days accordingly. And we'll be right back at it with a million shows in August. So there you go. Still lining up guests for you guys. But yeah, we took a little break. It was good. We back now. And you guys had a ton of questions for us. I did a mailbag call out on Twitter on Tuesday and then Wednesday. Got a bunch of good questions from you guys. Got just enough so that we can hit everybody. I was a little worried. I thought we had been off so long that we were going to get like 50. And like, oh, damn. Now I got to pick the best ones, and that's unfair. But we got enough so we can get everybody. I think we got about 25. So that's good. Thank you guys for those. And let's jump right in.
Let's do it. So we'll start off with QB stuff. You know, the big news is got new quarterbacks, man. Geno Smith, Drew Lock. Someone's going to be starting. Hell, we got $100 on the line to see who's starting. So the first question is, what has to happen for Geno or Drew to be named starter if there's no slam dunk obvious winner? And this one is from Mark G. Petrie.
Yeah, this is a good question, and one that I think I got when I did a mailbag story on The Athletic, because it's really the biggest story of the offseason, so that's why we're starting with it first. I think that if it's close, there's going to be a few tiebreakers, at least in terms of on the field, like checks at the line of scrimmage, making the right read, stuff that happens in the film room or like, you know, behind the scenes in the QB meetings and stuff like that. Only Dave Canales and let's say assistant coach, a passing game coordinator, only Dave, offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, Pete Carroll, those guys will be privy to that information to make those behind the scenes things to know who wins. But I think in terms of just producing, there'll be a few tiebreakers. And they're not rocket science, I think. I think everyone who follows Seahawks football can guess what they are. Like turnovers is for one. Like the guy who turns it over the least, if it's a close competition in terms of some other numbers, that guy probably wins. And it won't be just raw turnovers, right? Like if Drew has one more interception than Geno or something like that in practice and in preseason, but one of those is the ball hitting a receiver in the hands and, you know, then a guy gets it or whatever. I don't think it'll, you know what I'm saying? They'll have context. So I think turnovers is one. I think third down numbers in those preseason games will be really, really, really important. I think red zone numbers in those preseason games will be really, really important. I think because all the throws are going to look fine. I think they're both going to be able to push the ball downfield. They're going to attack the middle of the field. They're going to hit checkdowns. They're going to look effective in the offense, particularly in practice, right? Everything's easier when a guy can't hit you in the face, right? So everyone should look good in practice. I think we talked about in this podcast before. I get really nervous when a quarterback doesn't look good in practice, because then you know he's really bad. Like, no one can hit you and you still stink? That's rough. So I think turnovers will be a good tiebreaker. Like I said, third downs, like third and third and medium and let's say 3rd and 4 and beyond. The obvious throwing situations, like the guy who is most effective on 3rd down, protects the ball in the red zone. I think those are probably. Am I missing anything, Chris? That'll be a tiebreaker. I feel like those are the big ones. Am I missing one?
No, I don't. I can't think of any off top. Nah.
Yeah, I think that's really what's going to come down to. Like what a word you're going to hear a lot when Pete Carroll talks about the competition is command. He's going to say the guy really commands the group, commands the offense, yada, yada, yada. It's vague enough that we don't really know how to quantify that without a lot of inside information. And as you guys have probably noticed from listening to interviews with the players and the coaches as well, no one's going to side with one guy or the other on record. No way. Everyone's just going to say both guys are doing good. They're going to throw Jacob Eason in there too to make sure he feels, warm and fuzzy and that his name is mentioned when you talk about the quarterback competition, which is good. That's called being a good teammate. Like I understand. So it's really just up to us to decipher based on what we see. And based on what we see, I think the turnover is just going to be huge. And I think the fewest bonehead turnovers will probably be. Maybe bonehead is not a good word, but like for example, there's already been some moments in practice in the few practices that I've gotten to watch. Like both of those guys will look good. They will just uncork something. Drew and Geno, they'll look good. Uncork something, and then the next play will be like a pick, and you're like, well, see, yeah, that's the problem. You can't just look good in one drive or 2 drives or 3 drives, and then just gift it right to the linebacker on that 4th drive. That's the inconsistency that is why both of these guys are still on cheap deals after they've been in the league for 3+ years. I think it's like year 10 for Geno. So the limited number of like, dog, what the hell were you thinking throws? I want that as a stat. What's the letters I just used on that? Dog, what the hell were you thinking throws?
D, W, T, H, Y, T. Dog, what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, so I got DWTH
WYT
throws.
Hey, that's a hashtag, Mike. There you go.
Yep. So we just invented a stat right there.
Hey, you just invented it.
I'll take that. Our first Seahawks man-to-man advanced statistic. Dog, what the hell were you thinking throws? That's how we're gonna measure. The guy with the fewest number of those probably will win the job if it's close. I imagine it being close. So like Chris mentioned, I have $100 on Geno starting. Chris has $100 on Drew starting week 1. So we'll see how that goes. But I think the guy, if I had to kind of put it all together in one thing, that would be the stat. The dog, what the hell were you thinking throws? You limit those. You get me or Chris $100 in September.
The next one is from C. Crow. Why am I talking myself into Drew Lock?
And this is probably a sarcastic question, but it's funny because I was just telling my homie who covers another NFL team, I was like, I feel like that's happening in Seattle right now. Like people are talking themselves into Geno, into Drew. Like you see I can almost kind of take a sample of it when people tweet me, right? Like I remember what mentions look like the day of the Russ trade and the day after the Russ trade and the day after that. Like I remember the projections were not good. You had people saying, Mike, why are we going to win 2 games, 3 games, 4 games? And then you see the faith in Drew rising. Oh, now we're going to win 5. Now we're going to win 6. Now it's like, could we sneak into the playoffs? It's just like, I know they've made other transactions since then, but like you can tell a lot of it is the faith in Drew Lock has risen. And I think part of that is Pete Carroll and John Schneider have done their job when they're on record. They are talking Drew up like crazy. And that's good. They're supposed to, right? I'm not saying that's good or bad, just is what it is. Teammates doing the same thing, right? Like he hasn't, let's see, Drew got traded here, I think in March 8th is June 1st. He has played no games since then. Nothing has changed. It's almost like somebody's draft stock changes at like for the time from the college football playoff to draft weekend. It's like, his stock rose or dropped. It's like he ain't played. His tape looks exactly the same since then. His tape ain't changed. Maybe he played in the Senior Bowl or something. But by and large, his tape, his performance, the player he is has not changed. You see a dude rise all the way from undrafted to the second damn round in a matter of 2 months. I think that's happening with Drew. And I think part of that is when something is unknown, who you are as a person naturally just shapes where you want to project. Like you could be a pessimist naturally. You're like, oh, well, the longer this remains an unknown, the worse I'm going to think it is when we get to see it. And then you got the other people who are like, no, I'm an optimist. So the longer I don't see Drew, the better I project that he'll be, or anybody. This could be a rookie or whatever. I think it kind of depends if you're a glass half full person or a glass half empty person. That just kind of it's an internal thing, I think. And you see it with rookies. You see it with see what guys coming off an injury. Like if like Marquise Blair was one. He got hurt, right? And while he was hurt, we just but they were just kind of like, okay, now he's gonna come back and be an all pro. Just because we're projecting that he'll come back great after an injury. Or, I think something similar is being done with like Trey Brown. Like just kind of depends on who you are. You tell yourself that like the longer something is unknown, I can just project that it'd be really, really good. It's like another word of saying is potential. I mean, this guy has the potential to be good. A lot of people have told me they think Drew's going to win the job for no other reason than he's got potential. And whereas Geno is as more of a finished product, like we know what he is.
He's 10 years in the league, like you said.
Right. Yeah. It's the same argument I remember hearing when I was very critical of the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold. I was like, why would you get rid of Teddy Bridgewater for Sam Darnold? I get rid of getting rid of Teddy. Like I understand that. But if you're just going to acquire Sam, I didn't understand that. So people hitting me like, Mike, well, Teddy's been in the league X amount of years. Sam's been in the league X amount of years. We know what Teddy is. Sam has potential. I was like, well, that doesn't mean, but like when people assign potential, they obviously think about that in the most positive way. Like, oh, we don't know what he is yet. So let's see. Well, we also don't know if he's bad either, which is still an option when someone has potential. I'm not saying like Drew's bad. I am just saying that like when you say, oh, someone's an unfinished product. Well, yeah, the product can get worse then too. Sam was a good example. A great example, actually. It's like, oh, we don't know what he is yet. I would have argued we did know what he was, a bad quarterback. But whatever. Even if we didn't know, it's like, oh, he's got this untapped potential. Carolina might reach it. Okay, well, he also could get worse in Carolina too. That's what being unproven or unfinished product looks like. And I think with Drew, you see a lot of people who are like, yeah, Mike, we don't know what he is yet. We don't know what he is yet. What does it look like in a new offense, in a new scene? And I'm like, yeah, that's all fair, right? That's perfectly fair. But just we're being realistic. If you projected that he's going to be good just because he's an unfinished product, that's just because you want to project that. There's not anything to suggest that. Same thing if you're just projecting he'll come here and stink. You're just projecting that because that's what you think. There's no basis really to go heavy one way or in the other. I tend to think generally that quarterbacks don't become new people after they've been in the league for a little bit. Josh Allen notwithstanding, these kids have made so many throws since high school with these 7-on-7 camps and college. And by the time they get to the pros, they are far closer to a finished product than a guy was coming out of school in 2002. Right. So that's why because I say that to people and they bring up Peyton Manning or a Drew Brees. It's like, guys, that's different. It's a different era of football. I think even did Dan Marino stink for a little bit? Someone who ended up playing for the Niners. I think maybe like Steve Young stunk somewhere before he got hot. All that is different than these new era of kids in the 7-on-7 era. So I said to say, generally, I'm try to sit in the middle. I'm like, guys, if you expect someone to go play quarterback somewhere else and become a new dude, you're gonna be disappointed. But I think that's probably why. Chris, who asked us that question about Drew?
This was from @CCrow.
So yeah, I think they don't have a name on that one. I would love to shout them out because I thought that was a really fun question.
Let me go back and double check.
Because I think that is why people, not just the @CCrow, I think that's why a lot of people have talked themselves into Drew in the last like 2 months.
Yeah, that'll happen. And it's Seattle CCrow. Yeah, sorry, Mike.
Well, that's all right. Well, shout out to hopefully that person listening, man. That's a good. I think they're not the only one. A lot of people have talked themselves into Drew. Every time I post a Drew Lock clip on my Instagram story that the Seahawks post, I see it. People are seeing the vision with Drew, and that's good. I think that is why they're viewing it that way.
We'll stick with Drew. How well do you think Drew Lock has to play this season in order to secure the starting job beyond 2022? And this one's from Billy.
That's a good question there, Billy. I don't like the basis of the question because it assumes that I have already given Chris the $100.
Right, just start giving me, 15. I'm not gonna do the math. Whatever. Continue.
I'm not giving you installments. No, I'm not doing that. I would say that. Let me see. How well does Drew have to play? So the basis of this question, beyond it meaning that I've given Chris $100.
I don't think you like this question at all.
I don't. All right. So how well does Drew have to play for the Seahawks to come out of the 2022 season, head into the Senior Bowl, and think we don't care about any of these kids because we got Drew Lock? That's basically what the question is asked. Because I don't think there's going to be anybody on the trade block unless they want to like trade for Tannehill or trade for Kirk Cousins or something like that. Maybe trade for Jameis or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Jameis would be the trade. Yeah, Baker. Well, they wouldn't trade for Baker, but so there'll be some options out there. But let's include them too. Let's say, how good does Drew have to be for them to enter the Senior Bowl, enter free agency? Like, nope, we're not a QB needy team because we got Drew. I would say probably Pro Bowl level. That's I think it has to be Pro Bowl caliber. And when you think about it, that's kind of the baseline for every team. Unless your guy makes a Pro, everybody makes a Pro Bowl. Mitch Trubisky made one. Every time a guy makes a Pro Bowl, then the question becomes, is this our guy? Like I think Jalen Hurts just made it. Kyler Murray's obviously made it. Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, I don't know if Justin Herbert, I think Justin Herbert has. He should have. Mahomes, whatever, like Lamar Jackson. When these guys do that, that's kind of when we can kind of all agree that, okay, he's the guy worth paying. Baker Mayfield, I don't think has made one. So that would explain why it's like, ooh, I don't know if this Baker dude's the guy. But even like a Jared Goff, I think Jared Goff made it in 2018. I want to say made it. He might have been a starter in the Pro Bowl that year. No, they made the Super Bowl, so he couldn't have been the starter, but you know what I mean. And then he got paid after that. Why? Because it showed that he was like at that caliber. So I think Drew Lock needs to have like a 2018 Jared Goff type of season to force the Seahawks to enter the offseason thinking we do not need a quarterback because we got number 2. That's I'm not gonna lie, that's a high bar. Like that's a really high bar. But I can't think of anything less than that. And you might as well go get a Bryce Young. You might as well go get what's the kid from Ohio State? Stroud, CJ Stroud. Yeah, you might as well go get the kid from Miami. Go get the kid from Kentucky. Like you might as well try those guys out if Drew is not, at that level. Because if he's just a guy, you don't win. You're not going to win with just a guy.
8 wins. There's just a guy. There you go.
And I don't even know if you get to that with just a guy. Like 8 is what you get with like Kirk Cousins in any given year, And I think he's better than just a guy. Like I think he's a good player. Just a guy is almost like a Eric Carr-ish type of level. Look at some of these seasons with Kirk Cousins. 9-7. This is starting in 2015. 9-7, 8-7-1, 7-9, 8-7, 10-5, 7-9, 8-8. Yeah, like just a guy is Kirk Cousins level, and Kirk's made 3 Pro Bowls. So I think that's it. Like it's that 2018 Jared Goff, Derek Carr level of how many Pro Bowls Derek Carr made? 1, I think, because he lit it up in 2016. Like that's the baseline there. Anything other than that, and the Seahawks are right back in the offseason looking for a quarterback. Derek's made 3 of them things. But yeah, Derek made it in 2015, 7-9. Made it in 2016 where he lit it up. He finished 3rd in MVP voting that year. They were 12-3. 12-3 with him as the starter. He missed a game. I think he broke his back or something.
Yeah.
And then back injury. Yeah, that's right. And then 6-9 with Derek as a starter the next year, also made Pro Bowl. So he had a little bit of a run there where he was tearing shit up. But I think that's the level, that
Dang,
it's
6
high.
and 9 with a Pro Bowl.
I mean, shoot, man, Deshaun Watson is an on-field, the on-field Deshaun take. Deshaun in the last season we saw him was like a top 3 quarterback, and they won 4 games. Like legitimately,
Crazy how that is.
this would be his 2020 numbers. I want to say, I think this would be 2020 numbers, and boy, he lit it up. I mean, raw numbers, advanced numbers. He was go watch some tape. He was killing it, boy, and the Texans stunk. They just they were 4-12. Like he made the Pro Bowl, threw for 4,800 yards, completed 70% of his passes, threw 33 touchdowns against 7 picks, led the league in yards per attempt at 8.9, which is bananas, and they won 4 games. 4.
You need help on defense.
Yeah. You need on offense too. I forget who he was throwing to at the time, but
Will Fuller, D Hop.
He wasn't throwing to Will Fuller, man. That boy always hurt.
Well, when he was there,
and all everybody who's played for the Texans is now on the juice. Didn't D Hop then got suspended? Then suspended a linebacker, I think. And Cushing was on the juice. I think Will Fuller was on the juice. Whatever, they got a Texan strength and conditioning dude there, which is passing out the juice over there, man. Okay, we got sidetracked. Sorry, but yes, that's the baseline. Be Pro Bowl caliber. Be Jared Goff in 2018, and we don't need a guy. That's the best way to look at it.
What are odds Geno and Drew start a game this year? I think it's 95%, and this is not factoring injury.
All right, who's this one from?
This one is from. Oh, shoot, did I lose it? I'll find it. 1 second. Go ahead and get your answer in, Mike.
I like this question too. It'd be a really fun prop to bet, like in Vegas or something like that. Like, what are the odds that they both? I would love to see the Vegas line on that if we're not counting injuries, which would be a hard thing to account for on a Vegas line. I would say it's probably about 60% ish that they both start a game this season, a regular season game. And so here's why I say that. You got the name
Chris
of the
Leeper. Yeah, Chris. It was Chris Leeper.
All right. Shout out to you, Chris. That was a good question. I think it's probably about around 60-65% because I think it's hard to imagine the guy who wins the job, whether it's Drew or it's Geno. It's hard to imagine the guy winning the job and not having a really rough stretch at some point because it just happens. I mean, Russ has even had them, like maybe it's in October, it's November, it's late in the year, whatever. These defensive coordinators are really good. I mean, scoring in general, goes down usually after, the second half of the season after defensive coordinators have enough tape on you, your OC, your entire offense. They can study something and catch up to you. Scoring be crazy in September around the damn league. By December, everybody grinding it out. And that's not just because of weather, right? So I think that when you don't have a quarterback that's like super dynamic to mask the other issues on the roster, it's really hard to imagine a guy like not stinking it up, but just really just not being strong for a stretch there. Like if it's Geno, you could easily see him coming out of the gates hot. All right, you got some film on him in the new offense. You got some film on, not in a new offense, but you just have more film on him so that by week 6, whoever they play then, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to scheme up some shit right here. Watch this, And again, it's not just because it's Geno or Drew. We saw this with Russ. Russ would have stretches where it's like, yo, he 3 games right here in a row where he ain't been cooking like that. He's had a few of those the last couple seasons. He had some duds like that in 2017. I mean, he's had games where he's thrown 3-4 picks, where the Seahawks are like down at halftime and they ain't got no touchdowns. Like every quarterback has them. Mahomes has them. Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. They just have them. They have them stretches. So, and those are the elite of the elite. So I think we're looking at a stretch here where one of these guys could like have a run where they're 1 touchdown versus like 5 picks in 3 games and they're like 0-3. So I could see something like that. It's hard to play in the NFL at a consistently high level. Anybody can play good for a game or two. Like look at for example, right? Let's look at the 2019 stretch that Pete Carroll loves to mention when he talks about how good Drew Lock can be, right? And I think whatever, if that's the sample size he wants to swear by, I'm perfectly fine with analyzing that at face value, right? So Drew Lock, he went in his first start over the Chargers, 18 for 28, a couple touchdowns and a pick. Next game, he was 22 of 27, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Cooked a really bad Texans defense, but he cooked them nonetheless. The very next game, he completes 18 of 40 passes, right? That's awful. For 200 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick, right? Like that was a disaster, right? That's right in the middle of him not playing super well. And then after that, he doesn't crack 200 yards again the rest of the year and throws 2 touchdowns, in the next 2 weeks. That's like not a terrible run, but it just shows you that like you're only one game away from just having a stinker, and then that can just change everything, change your whole narrative. So I can easily see a scenario where Geno wins the job. Maybe they're not in contention late in the year, and after the bye week, when's the bye week? Week 11, 10 or something like that this year. They're like, look, we got to throw Drew out there. Let's see what he's got. See if we can finish strong. See maybe we can build on him for the future, something like that. So yeah, I say 60-65% chance. What do you think on that one?
I'm thinking about 75-80% chance, just because all indicators point that they want to win. How much room are they willing to give a struggling Drew to play out the season? How much room are they willing to give a veteran in Geno Smith the opportunity? It's tough, but I would say, 75-80%.
Yeah, and I think this factors in. This needs to factor in whether they're in contention, too. Like how many games are they winning? Because I'm not going to make a quarterback change if you're in the thick of things. I would.
No, yeah. If they're right there in the hunt, why would you make a change? Like that could mess up everything.
I'm just not sure how confident I am in them being in the hunt, and I say that because I feel like a lot of things have to go right for them to be in the hunt. Late into the season. I mean, everybody's got to stay healthy. They need some injury misfortune on the other part on some of their opponents. They need like some close games to bounce their way, because I don't see this version of this team blowing many teams out. Maybe blow out like Atlanta or something like that. Maybe the Jets or I think both New York teams come out here. Maybe Jets.
They read revenge game. I don't know.
Yeah, see, and I don't know. Like it's going to be tough. They do play some shaky quarterbacks there. Mariota or Desmond Ridder. They're going to play Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson. But by that same token, like I watched them lose to Colt McCoy back-to-back years
on a bad hammy.
Yeah, so it's like the quarterback being awful doesn't really guarantee a victory either. Just lost to Nick Foles, just in like week 16 or something like that, like right before Christmas or something. So yeah, the quarterback situation doesn't guarantee any wins either. So we're in the same ballpark. I'm at 60-65. You're at 75-80. I do think both guys are going to start a regular season game in 2022.
That's one way of putting it. Let's stick with the offense. What role do you see Dee Eskridge playing in the offense this year? Do you believe he takes a step up? Obviously, if he doesn't get banged up. And do you believe, regardless of Drew or Geno, Shane will utilize either of them for over-the-middle passes rather than looking for the deep ball that Wilson had in his arsenal? And this is from @TK.
Yeah, I don't trust. So let me put this. How can I word this properly? I feel like more often than not, the Seahawks get a guy and don't use him correctly. Like I feel like we're usually upset about that more often than we are identifying that, they are really maximizing what this guy does well. I think that with the exception of I feel like there are more Percy Harvins and Jimmy Grahams, and even a Doug Baldwin. I feel like as much as people in Seattle appreciate Doug, we all kind of imagine like him putting up crazier numbers if he was in a different offense. Like imagine Doug playing with who was hot at that time. Like imagine Doug playing with who was hot at that time. Doug's career.
So 2000. Okay, let's think. Who was hot?
Like even if he played with like a Romo or even like a Big Ben. Like,
with AB and those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, like we do that because like those guys were good, but I feel like they were overcoming the system there. I feel like, and we could do that kind of on offense and on defense. Like that's the biggest gripe with everyone with the Jamal Adams thing right now. They're like, we're not utilizing him the right way. I feel like that just happens so more often than not. So when it comes to designing a plan to use a guy with a certain skill set the right way, I just don't give the team the benefit of the doubt there because I feel like we have far more examples of it not happening than we have of it happening. I think with DK was one where it's happening. Like that first year, he ran about 3-4 routes, and he was killing it on those 3-4 because that was where he was best at. I actually really applaud that. But like with D, it feels like they're just like, all right, just be Costco brand Robert Woods, take these fly sweeps, these little bubble screens, a lot of stuff being horizontal around the line of scrimmage, which is cool, but man, do they not have access to Western Michigan film? Because boy, this guy he's a threat, man. He can run far. Like I think that if anything, he's like a miniature DK in that he's an outside guy who can really, you might need someone over the top over there.
Yeah.
So in theory, I would like him to be that, like use him like he used DK, slants, comebacks, because he got really strong hands too. Slants, comebacks, and goes in some deep posts. That's I think that like his skill set that I think they should use. Instead, I could easily see him just being more like a gadget guy, fly sweeps, quick hitches, little tunnel screens, stuff like that. That's fine, but that can't be all that he is. I think he's capable of so much more. So I guess it's a two-part answer. I would wish that he would be like, treat him like rookie year DK, stick him outside as the X or whatever, the outside guy as the receiver, and let him cook because he's going to get some favorable matchups too. He ain't going to get the team's number one receiver. He's going to get like the corner. He's going to get the third best corner on the other team. How many teams got 3 good corners? Let D go out there and eat. Instead, I can imagine him being in a less flashy Robert Woods role, which I think is just a big waste of his talent.
Yeah, I would just say I see him in the same role that he was in last year, to be honest. I hope, to your point, that I look at one play. I know he doesn't have maybe we just haven't seen it. Rondale Moore plays for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
When he played the Seahawks, I was like, yo, why isn't D getting the same love?
Didn't Rondale have like 19 catches or something?
Bro,
like that?
They targeted him like 13, 14 times. I think he had 9 to 10 catches. He was just everywhere. And it was, to your point, he was doing a lot of fly sweeps, a lot of hitches, but boy, was he killing. So even I know you said you want to open it up for D, even if it's not opened up for D, at least give him those opportunities. And he doesn't even get that. He might get one fly sweep a game, and then he's on the bench and he's getting snaps, but he's not getting the ball. He's not being effective. There's no impact plays that he's getting in on. That's where I would want to see more of D. Impact plays, an opportunity for him to shine. I know he got banged up, and from that point on, he just didn't see the field, but you got to have faith in the guy because he was one of your high draft picks during that year. And you got to instill that. Yeah, he was. You got to instill that belief in him and give him those opportunities because that's why you drafted him. You didn't draft him to just not play him. You drafted him because you thought he could revamp the offense with fly sweeps, with quick screens, with quick slants, using the quarterback, holding it, faking it to the running back, QBR. That didn't have, not QBR. What is it called? I just drew a blank.
We're talking about RPO action?
Thank you. RPO action. Not saying that the Seahawks will run that, but when you have someone like D that's available for you, so
that's what they ran at Western Michigan, a lot of RPO stuff.
Absolutely, but I get it. We'll see what happens. That's my fear. That's the role he'll be in, is kind of what we saw last season. Not to mention who they just signed, Marquise Goodwin, a guy that is he's a trailblazer. And what I mean by that, he is very, very fast. And I'm sure he's going to be battling D for that spot right there, which is going to be the slot position, along with Freddie Swain, who also, I thought last year, stepped up and played pretty well.
See, I think that's the thing about D. I think he's short, right? He's like five. He's about my height. He's about 5'9" ish. I think that's what he's listed. Actually, let me just look it up. So I'm not. Yeah, he's listed 5'9", 190, right? Like he's not a slot guy to me. To me, he is an outside guy. Like even when you see him practice and you see the receiver drills, he's when they split up the X's and the Z's and the Y's. You know, I really think that he be in line over there with like Penny Hart, Derek Young. There's the rookie they just got, like guys they consider outside guys. No, Bo is a slot guy. Bo Melton's a slot guy. Because it's about skill set more than it is size. Like DK is an outside guy. Freddie's a little bit of both. I think D is an outside guy, you know. And I like the pick at the time, and I still do. But like I think at one point in my mock draft in 2021, I mocked Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He killed the Seahawks too.
Yeah, he is a true slot, and like I'm sure there was plenty of people, maybe not plenty, but probably a scout or something on the Seahawks or a coach or whatever, probably watching him kill him, be like, yeah, we probably should have drafted that guy, especially since he went to USC, you know, and a third of Pete Carroll's freaking staff is guys he knows from SC, you know, so like how they could not have snagged him, you know, that's a whiff on their part. Like that's the skill set. I think the slot guy. D is more like, yo, let him cook on the one-on-ones he's going to get on the outside. He's big. He's like bulky. He's like listed like 190. That's a bulky 5'9", you know? So that's the role I want for him. Because, yeah, even when he came back in last year, what he had? 2 targets his first game. And I think he only got those 2 targets because he was backing up DK, and DK got ejected that game. Otherwise, I don't think he would have touched the ball at all. 0 in the next game. You know, 3 targets, 3 targets, 1 target, 4 targets with no catches somehow against the Rams. 3 targets, then 3 targets, no targets in their season finale. Like that, come on, man. You can't do that. Not with a high pick. You can't do that. You got to get him the ball more. I don't really care how you do it. Like in that Rondale Moore game against the Seahawks with Colt McCoy or whoever, he had 11 targets. Come on. That's what we need out of a guy like Dee Eskridge next year.
No, I hear you. How has Ken Walker looked in person at OTAs? Glad y'all are back, and this is at Brendo Pretendo.
I have bad news for Brendo. I've only been able to watch about 5 practices. 3 of those were all rookies, and 2 of those were with the veterans and the rookies combined. So I don't have a lot of insight on like how specific guys look. You gotta remember, there's no pads. The guys can't make a lot of contact, so it's really just glorified 7-on-7 stuff. So that means you can't really see what the linebackers are doing in the run game. You can't see anything about the D-line and the pass rush, O-line, running backs, yards after catch stuff. Really, like it's all you have to just simulate everything in your mind. So I know we got a bunch of questions, not a bunch. We got a few questions about like how does this individual person look? I'm sorry, guys.
Drew Lock was the next one, so you can go ahead.
Drew, Kenneth. I mean, Drew actually look. I can tell about a quarterback because it's about how you throw it. But like there's so many of those guys we just won't know. The DBs can't really make a ton of plays on the ball. Like I watched a DB be in person or be in position to make a pick, but he knew that if he would have collided with the receiver and probably got in trouble, so he just let it go, let him catch it. You know, and that's the type of stuff you have to do. You won't really know until August, you know, when they start putting some pads on, like, oh, okay, this guy can play. So Kenneth, Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, all of the linemen, all of the running backs, like we're on wait and see. Basically, the people you're going to ask us about now are DBs, receivers, and quarterbacks. That's it.
Who is a player on both sides of the ball you guys think will take a big step forward this season? And this can include rookies ready to make the jump from college to the pros. And this is from Morals Quandary.
You want to go first?
Sure. I will start with I guess I'll start with the offense. Last year I picked Freddie Swain, and I thought Freddie Swain had a pretty good year. He didn't have a bad year. He was always open on third down.
And Freddie Swain is the king, bro. King of the busted play, man. King of it. Kudos to him. I'm not even saying that as a knock. He just like
always open. Somehow he just found his way. Like, hey guys, throw it to me. Touchdown. Oh, what the hell? But offensively, I am going to say Rashad Penny. Now, this is Hopefully he can stay healthy. I know he's having some hamstring injuries, which is not a good sign because it's OTAs. Like we are just getting started and the hamstrings are already tight or whatever the case may be. If healthy though, and he plays 13 to 14 games, I would pick Rashad Penny offensively. Mike, who you got offensively?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're saying Penny's got a hamstring thing now. I think he's fine now, for what it's worth. I saw him running around out there the last practice I was at. So let's see on offense. Yeah, that's tough.
It is.
I would say, oh man, this is rough. So my guess here will be, fingers crossed, it will be Damian Lewis. Because I just think that Damian is he's a really solid run blocker, excellent. I think actually, but there's a lot of room to grow in pass protection. And you can see it in the film too. There's some of these the really good interior rushers. They can get him. They get him on third down sometimes, and it can be a little rough. I remember the Green Bay game in particular not being super great because right now he's like he's just a run blocker that needs to grow. He's like the opposite of like what Charles Cross was purported to be coming out of the draft, like a pass blocker that needs to grow in the run game. D-Lou kind of the opposite, but like he's a guard, so it's not something we really focus on. But I think if he kind of puts that all together, though, that's going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about like, oh, yeah, how much is it going to cost for the Seahawks to retain D-Lou? Which is good because we have quite literally probably never had that discussion about a Seahawks offensive lineman that they've drafted in this era. Like, how much is it going to cost to keep such and such? Like,
yeah,
that's if you think about it, that's kind of nuts because they've drafted a lot of linemen. I think D-Lou has the potential to be that guy where it's like, all right, they got to pay him because he's nice. But you can't have that discussion until you are like an above average pass protector. And I don't think he's there quite yet. But I think this should be the year. That's my hope.
All right, and now to the defensive side of things, I am going to take Jordan Brooks. He is now one of the young leaders on this defense, led the team in tackles last season. He knows about the defense. He's going to know more about it as the season progresses. Last season, Mike and I talked about off wax about his struggles with screenplays and being able to read those off the jump. Hopefully during this offseason and going into next season, he is well equipped for it. And when teams try it, he takes care of it, handles his business, and maybe makes a Pro Bowl this season. That would be a nice jump for Jordan Brooks as a third year now starter that he gets a Pro Bowl. I think that'd be pretty dope to see.
Yeah, and I think for Jordan, the thing you really want to see is just those impact plays. Like a game-changing interception, pass breakup, TFL, sack, something like that, because that is where – because you can have those from that position. Like Bobby Wagner would do that. KJ Wright would do that. You would feel them. You'd be like, yo, number 50 is balling. Number 54 is balling. Like, all right, you had 2 years in the league starting. You learned a lot, made some plays here and there, made a lot of plays, actually, I would say specifically in the run game. He's nasty in the run game. Now it's the next step. Like, all right, I want to feel you. I want to just feel your presence in the game. Don't got to be every game. But, every other game, I should be like, yo, 56 is that guy. But on the other side, I think I'm just on defense. I'm rolling with Darrell Taylor, man. I think I've been scared to say it on air or in front of a microphone, but I've been thinking it for a little bit. I remember thinking it the first week I saw Darrell in person last year during like this time. I remember thinking, oh boy, that looks exactly like Frank Clark. Like just the bend, the get off from like the line, like when they say hike, like the get off the line of scrimmage, the body type, the athleticism. I was looking at that dude like, yo, he is gonna kill some shit in the regular season. He didn't kill, I think he had 6.5 sacks or something like that. But for a while there, he was their best pass rusher. But he's just such a good athlete, man. And it just reminded me of my first year in 2017. Now, obviously, Frank was in year 3 at the time. But when I got here, I just remember seeing 55. I'm like, yo, he is that dude. And in 2017, I think Frank might have led him in sacks. And in 2018, he like was I think had 13 and a half, 14 and a half sacks or something like that, and was just killing it. I just knew I could just see it in the body type being like, yo, yep, 55 is that guy. I remember thinking that with Daryl last year, thinking, yep, 52. He giving me that same vibe. And this is before I even saw pads. I remember just thinking like, yeah, he's going to be nice. So then he has his 6.5 sacks or whatever last year. Let me make sure I'm getting that number right. But he had his sacks last year, and this year I could easily see that dude having a 10 sack season. I really could. Like, I asked Clint Hurt, defensive coordinator, about that yesterday. Oh yeah, Daryl had 6.5. I asked Clinton about that yesterday. I said, "What's the ceiling on a guy like Daryl?" And Clinton just was like, just raised his hand in the air and looked at the sky like, "Come on, man! Like, whatever he wants it to be. Like, he ain't missing anything." I think with the Seahawks, so they think he's the best pass rusher in his draft class, and I think his draft class has Chase Young in it. I could easily see Daryl being that good. I could see it, man. That dude could be special. I really think that this scheme really fits him too. Remember last year we talked a lot about how it didn't fit Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah.
And like Benson Mayoas and guys who were more 4-3 edge rushers, not 3-4 outside backers.
They're used to just going at the quarterback. Daryl Taylor can do both.
Daryl can do anything. He can here was a couple plays last year where he decapitated dudes. Like he had one on the goal line. He smoked a running back. I forget who it was. I want to say someone on the Rams. Just smoked them in a run play. Just put him down. And then he's got one in coverage where he does the same thing. I think that's also against the Rams, where he just smokes a dude in
Wasn't
the
it Robert Woods?
Is it Robert? Maybe it was. I'm not even really sure. I just remember thinking, yeah, nah, dog. That dude can do a little bit of everything. And he's another one of those guys like Gabe, or excuse me, like D-Lou. It's like, yo, he puts it together, and we're going to be talking about how much is it going to cost to keep that dude because he's like that. So yeah, my vote's two guys from the 2020 draft class, Daryl Taylor and D-Lou.
Nice. All right. Our last offensive question is, how do you see the new personnel on the offensive line impacting the run or pass game? And this is from Fader's Gonna Fate.
Fader's Gonna Fate. That's a good Twitter name. The O-line is everything. The O-line is everything. I saw I think it was Pro Football Focus that has the Seahawks in their power rankings as like the 32nd ranked team. And I was talking to the homie Ben Baldwin. Shout out to Ben. I was like, we were in our replies on Twitter. We were talking about it, and someone hit us and was like, "How can anyone possibly put the Seahawks there?" And I was like, "I don't have them there, but I could see it." And the reason is the O-line. Like if you go look at all of the metrics that predict O-line play, and Ben Baldwin's like Twitter account has been chronicling a lot of them, different ways of quantifying how good or bad your O-line is going to be. The Seahawks fall into the bottom three in pretty much all of them. It's because we haven't seen Charles Cross. You know, we don't know much about Jake Curran. We don't know barely anything about Austin Blythe. So there's a lot of variables there. But my point is that if you think the O-line is going to be bad, then yeah, you can easily project that the team is bad. That's not even that crazy to me. Like, how many teams have bad O-lines and great offenses? Like, the Seahawks were able to pull that off because Russ was the magic man. That's a pretty rare thing typically to see. So I think that the O-line is going to impact everything. I think how good Charles Cross is changes everything. I think how good Austin Blythe is or bad, whatever, changes everything. I think how good or bad Jake Curran is changes everything. Like, those guys, the way D-Lou, if D-Lou becomes a good pass protector, that changes everything. And if he doesn't, that changes everything too. Either way, the O-line defines the season for me. Like, the quarterback obviously is the number one. Number two on that is the O-line. If the O-line is just Cleveland Browns 2020 nasty, then yeah, Chris me and you could be back there and hand it off, to Rashad Penny, or to Kenneth Walker, Chris Carson, hopefully, fingers crossed. We can do that. But if these guys if they don't deliver, this could be a 3-win team in my mind. Because I don't care how good your defense is. If your O-line is not good, you will not win any games unless you got like God level play at quarterback, which is what Russ was doing. And look at the Super Bowl. Which Super Bowl was that? The Chiefs and Bucks? I forget what number Super Bowl it was. But you remember how bad the Chiefs O-line was?
Oh man.
The Chiefs out there were trotting out what they had, like Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the skill positions of that you would just Madden type shit. They had Mahomes. Defense was locked and loaded with dudes all over the place. Honey Badgers, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and they just stunk because they could not block anybody. Right now, obviously they're playing one of the best D lines in football, but you get my point. You can't block, you can't do shit. All right, so yeah, you ask Fate says, hey, how do you see the O-line impacting things? The O-line is everything. The O-line is everything. The O-line defines the season. It's quarterback and then O-line. It might even be O-line even more because it's 5 of them dudes. Like, O-line defines everything. How good or bad certain guys are changes everything.
Oh, that's very well said. And LV, that's 55. So it's Super Bowl 55 between the Bucks and the Chiefs, where unfortunately Patrick Mahomes is like, damn, no offensive line. But let's move to the defensive side of things. This one is from Cody Marmon. Feel like we've been asking this question for the past 4 seasons. Has Seattle done enough to solve the pass rushing issue?
Yeah, I think this is a funny one because I feel like I was one of the people ringing the bell on this last year that, like, guys are playing, there's dudes are playing out of position. Like, if Carlos Dunlap won't say it, I'll say it for him. He's playing out of position. The scheme is not helping him. Benson Mayowa the same way. And I remember I was saying it and saying it and saying it. And it just, you could tell the narrative was kind of there. And then you just get like guys doubling down on it. I think it was just Ryan Neal said it in his press conference on Tuesday. He was like, yeah, last year we had an issue. We now we figured out which guys need to rush and which guys need to cover. You know, Quandre Diggs said it in an interview with the homie Ben Baller on the Ben Baller podcast, I think in like January or February. He said like, yeah, no, we didn't have the right guys rushing and the right guys dropping. Like stuff we were saying that was just funny. I mean, even Clint Hurt when he got hired, he's like, I'm a D-line guy, I'm a big guy. I don't like to see big guys going backwards.
Bruh, I don't know how many times I was texting you during games like, yo, what are they doing? Like, why is Benson Mayowa in pass coverage against a running back? Like, that should never happen. I don't care what down it is. I don't care if it's a fullback. That is not what he needs to do. He needs to get after the quarterback. Same with Carlos Dunlap. Like, why is Carlos 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, or I should say backwards, dropping into coverage, trying to make a play on a wide receiver? No, he is A1 at getting to the quarterback. Let him do that. I get you're trying to make this transformation. You're trying to do something different here. Don't put him in that scenario. How about that?
And that's why Carlos wasn't playing, earlier in the year, because it was like, hey, we're 3-4. You're more of a 4-3 Leo instead of a 3-4 outside backer. Well, it's like, guys, you didn't just decide that in August. You decided that before you signed Carlos. It was very, very, very strange dynamic there, which is why, I mean, look who's not on the team now. They don't have Benson. They don't have Carlos. They got Uchenna and Wasu, who was in a 3-4 scheme playing for the Chargers. They drafted Boye Mafe, who played in that. He was an outside backer at Minnesota. So, like, they get it now. They're finding the guys who can do it. Tyreek Smith, the kid they took out of Ohio State, I think they were just a 4-3, which is why I don't expect him to play much, his rookie year, because I think it's still going to take some adjusting to rushing and playing from a 2-point stance. So I think who do they got now? They got Darrell Taylor,
Joel Iggy.
Iggy's an inside backer. So you got Darrell, Uchenna, and Alton Robinson and Boye. That's like your 4-man kind of edge group there. And then on the inside, you've got Puna, you've got Shelby Harris, you've got Quentin Jefferson, and you've got LJ Collie. If you say, have they done enough? I'm not quite sure just off that. I think they won't be like awful. Like that last year, they were like 29th, 28th in pressure rate. I could see them getting back towards the middle of the pack. 16-ish, 17-ish, somewhere in there, maybe 28 something sacks, something like that. Whatever the median was last year. I'd have to look that up. I'm not entirely sure. I can see them being back there in that realm. Some of that too depends on what does Jamal Adams give him as a blitzer. Does he have a sack next year? Does he have 10? I think Jamal plays a big part in that as well. But I will say it is encouraging now that I feel like they have the personnel to match what they want to do. Last year, they were trying to put square peg in round hole, and it just was not working. It was very clear. If I could see that, and I'm not even like a big D-line X's and O's guy, if I could be like, Well, that doesn't look right. That's Puna Ford and Brian Monet both in coverage. We should not do that. I think we had Cliff talk about it during the year, too. It's just there were so many things wrong with that, and it was apparent. It was really bad. I think now they got the right guys. I like the inside rushers they have. I like Quentin Jefferson. I like Shelby Harris. I like Puna Ford as big guys from the inside, mixed in there with Uchenna and Darrell. So yeah, I think they haven't done enough to be like elite. I think they would need about 8-9 sacks from Jamal to really make that happen. But I think they should be more close to the middle of the pack this year.
This one's from Alex Zerbe. What is the ceiling for the Seahawks defense?
That's another good question. Yeah, like I said, you guys came with some good stuff there. That's a good question. I would say at best, right? This is I'm looking up what the average sack. Oh man, it was 38 sacks. I could see them being around there. I could see them cracking like 40-ish. It's them cracking like 40-ish sacks, 38, 39. I can see that. Okay. So the ceiling, I would say that let's project the starting lineup here. Let's do that so it helps me put it in perspective. Your DBs, projected DBs. I got Trey Brown on the left, Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Kobe Bryant on the right, and then my nickel is Justin Coleman, and then my safeties are Jamal and Quandre. I think that's a young group on the outside, but I trust those guys in the middle I trust them quite a bit, actually. And then linebackers, we got Cody and Jordan. That's easy. And then I got Uchenna and Wasu, Darrell Taylor. Give me 3 inside guys. Big Al, Puna,
Shelby.
Big Al, Puna, and Shelby. There's my 11. It's kind of 12 with Justin Coleman in my nickel packages. So there's my 12 on defense. All right. And then backing them up, I got Brian Monet, and then I got LJ.
Al Woods.
No, I got Big Al starting. So I got Brian Monet. I got LJ. I got Boye, Tyreek Smith as my backup edges with Alton Robinson as well. My backup corners, Sidney Jones, Artie Burns. At safety, I got Ryan Neal and
Marquise
and Ugo.
Okay.
My backup safeties. So I think that group can be, if we were to use like EPA per play or something like that, I think they max out at 12. Like right there at like a playoff caliber defense. I think, or how many teams make it now? 14. So I think that 12 to 14 is the range there. That means you get a full year of Jamal back at Pro Bowl, all pro caliber level. You get another Pro Bowl season from Quandre. I mean, that's 2 Pro Bowl safeties right there, man. That's a good, and that means if Jamal does that, he's rushing the passer. So I think Trey Brown locked down. I think he's going to be really good. I'm doing that glass half full thing I mentioned with Trey Brown. I think Kobe probably will end up starting later in the year. I can see Sidney Jones starting out there, and then Kobe kind of working his way in because Kobe Bryant, I think, is going to be really good as well. Up front, I think that's a good front line. Like the run defense should be pretty solid. Again, it really just comes down to pass rush. So but if we're projecting the best of everyone, I'm projecting like a lockdown Justin Coleman back at that nickel spot where he's comfy, a lockdown Trey, Jamal back at Pro Bowl level, Quandre at Pro Bowl level, Big Al, Puna stuff in the middle, Darrell Taylor reaching his potential. Like the ceiling, that's a playoff caliber defense, anywhere from 12 to 14 in whatever advanced metric you like best, whether that's EPA or Football Outsiders, DVOA. I could see them in that range at best. I'm saying that's what they will be. If everything goes right and everyone plays their best and stays healthy, that's probably the best you're looking at.
That sounds good. Last one in the defensive side of things. This one's from Legion of Hawks 12. What has been noticeable about the vibe Sean Desai and Carl Scott are bringing to this defense?
Yeah, I haven't been around Sean or Carl a ton. Just like I said, I've only been to a few practices. I do think from talking to the guys, though, like their details have been really good. Like they're learning new techniques in some regard, like how they're going to attack different things. Like it's a different mindset with the defense. Really, it's more instead of just dropping back and waiting for things to unfold in front of you and then reacting to it. It's like, all right, we're going to bring the fight to the offense. We're going to try to make them react to us. Clint Hurt talked about this a little bit, I think, on 710. I want to say with Mike Salk. But like that, it's just a different mindset. And Sean and Carl, you can tell, are getting them to like learn, yo, guys, yeah, the mindset is one thing, but this is how we're going to do it from a technique standpoint. So you get the basics of what we're doing now. Like you see him working with the corners, Carl Scott. I mean, you see him, you would think a rep looks perfect. I could record the rep, send it out to Twitter, and everybody will love it. And you see Carl like, no. Your foot needs to do this thing here, and you need to do this here. Like I was watching them because Chris, you got releases from the receivers and they do all these choppy steps and they got their arms going and everything. I remember there was one moment where I think it was Kobe Bryant. I think it was either Kobe or another one of the rookies. He bit on the guy in front of him doing all that choppy stuff. Like he was trying to teach these guys to stay patient. Carl was like, man, hey, look, let him do all that dancing shit. Here's how you say your technique here. So when they do that, boom, here's how you react. I guess the little things like that. You talk to someone like that's elite, like Richard Sherman, and he'll tell you, trust your technique. Your technique, stay consistent with your technique, and your ass won't get cooked. Like that, and run fast if your guy takes off. Those are, two things there. It's like both from Sean and Carl. I've watched in person what I was told on the phone when they got hired. Like, no, these guys are going to be good teachers. The last thing you're going to see is the guys out there running around not knowing what they're supposed to be doing. Whether they do it or not is their fault. But like their assignment will be communicated to them at a very high level, and they're going to know what the hell they're supposed to be doing out on the field like that. And you're kind of seeing the baby steps of that, especially with the young guys. I haven't got to see him work with Quandre or Jamal and not even Justin Coleman that much. But you can just see it in how they're teaching the young guys. Like, yo, I'm going to teach you the basics. So when you get out there, you know what the hell you're doing, and you can play fast. That's kind of been encouraging to see.
This one is from Sean. You are an NFL GM. Congratulations. The 10th best player, a non-quarterback, on your board is available at 26. He won't last until your next pick at 45. Would you trade assets worth the 26th pick, 18th, and 10th pick? The exercise is how far are you willing to lose a trade in the NFL media if you believe the player was worth it?
Yeah, so basically this, if I'm reading Sean's question right, basically asking, hey, would you do what the Lions did and trade up 20 picks for a receiver? I mean, I think they traded up a lot to get Jameson Williams. Or like I think the Saints traded up to get Marcus Davenport a couple of years ago, the edge rusher out of whatever school, like UTSA or something. Like the answer for me is no. I'm not trading up that far. Like in Sean's example, that's 19 spots. I'm pretty sure the Lions traded up something close to that to get Jameson out of Alabama. No, I just can't do it for a non-quarterback. I'll wait for the next guy. It's draft assets are everyone when they trade up, they always project the best version of it. Like when a team trades up, it's like, oh, why do you care? We just drafted a Pro Bowl caliber guard. So who cares that we traded up, and gave up a 4th round pick for him? It's like, well, it's not that simple. That guard A could also stink. And the draft is just as much about value as it is about getting good players, right? That's why, all pro kickers don't go in the 1st round, right? It's about value. So for me, if you're talking about a non-quarterback moving up like 20 spots or something like that, I just can't do it. I don't really care how high he is. I'm a board. I'll go to the next guy on my board. That's why it's a board. I haven't got just 10 players on there. For a non-quarterback, that's tough, man. That probably not even for a left tackle. I think I'll just wait. That's just me though. Philosophically, trading up that much for a non-quarterback rarely is going to yield the dividends that you think. You're just giving up. You'd have to give up a lot traditionally to move up that far. The Lions, I feel like, didn't actually give up that much to move up 20 spots or whatever to get Jameson. I think that's pretty rare. That's really rare, I think. And part of that is probably rare because the Lions traded with, I think, the Vikings to move that far up. And the Vikings had a first-year GM who has like an analytics background. It's the brother. He's got an African name. Cannot remember. You know what I'm talking about, though? The Vikings GM. But it's African. Yeah. Yeah, something with a K. Anyway, my point is that he hadn't done this, and he comes from a different background. Maybe once he gets more drafts under his belt as the GM, he'll be less inclined to make such a move with a division rival. But yeah, the answer to Sean's question is no. If it's a non-quarterback, I'm not trading it.
It's Adolfo Mensa, if I'm not mistaken. Quesi.
Yes.
That's his name.
Not to say he doesn't know what he's doing because he's a first-year GM, but he's a first-year GM. And that was such a unique trade that you don't see a lot of, and I think that his newness has something to do with that.
Next question comes from @JZ. What's a negative take of yours on this year's team that you hope is wrong, and what's a positive, hopeful take of yours that you're worried it might be wrong? And Mike, you're wrong about ketchup.
Okay, before we get to the football thing, it is fascinating when I get on Twitter what random things are so polarizing. Like, I've learned this over the years. One of them was like when I argued about like taking naps, like how long you have to be asleep for it to be a nap versus just sleep.
30 minutes.
And I got so many replies on that. It was ridiculous. Like when I tweeted about bikini baristas like a month ago, I'm getting mentions for 2-3 days on like bikini baristas. It was kind of weird. For those that don't know, the bikini baristas, the girls in the little coffee stands, they're like standalone, usually in like some shady part of some parking lot. And you pull up, girls in there, it gives you a latte, but she's naked. Bikini baristas. It's a very weird concept. Apparently it's mostly a regional Pacific Northwest thing. But like the other thing is ketchup. I tweeted that ketchup is useless by and large. I'm getting flamed in my in my mentions. It was crazy. All I basically was trying to say is, if you name me a food that you routinely put ketchup on, I can guarantee that there is another condiment that will make that same food just taste better. Like, I feel like ketchup is just settling. Like, just be better. That's all. That's all I was saying on ketchup. And everybody's like, well, Mike, French fries. I'm like, you mother. I was almost cussed on here, like real for real. I was like, you guys out here putting ketchup on French fries? Out of all the good things that you can put on French fries, ketchup?
The best part is I almost cussed for real, as if shit isn't a bad word.
No, but I almost really got like Samuel Jackson with it. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like Samuel Jackson's a different level of profanity. Like Samuel Jackson could never do a radio show.
Our views would go up, Mike.
The FCC would be on Sam Jackson's ass, like if he was on the radio, because he cusses in a different way. It just hits different. Yeah, he goes pretty crazy. But yeah, there's no food that if you put ketchup on it, there's like, I can't name you a better condiment to do that same thing. Someone was like hash browns. Like, you putting sauce on hash browns? Yeah, hash browns probably nasty. Like, if you cook them right, you shouldn't need to put sauce on them. Same thing goes with eggs too. You guys is bugging. Even though I don't mind the hot sauce on eggs thing, it's Tabasco, whatever. I just don't do it. But you cook eggs right, come to my house. I'll cook you some eggs. You don't need to put no sauce on. For real, that just blew my mind. Anyway, the football version of the question was, what's a positive take that I'm a little bit worried about, and a negative take that I think could be proven wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should both do this one.
This is for both of us.
Yeah, both of us.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do my positive take that I'm a little worried about is I'm really high on the potential of the secondary. Like that group that I said that I projected, I think they could actually be really nice. Like Justin Coleman, Kobe Bryant, who again I think will come on later in the year. Kobe Bryant, Justin Coleman, and Trey Brown with Jamal and Quandre. Like, I just think that could be nice. But you know what? I also thought that Shaquille Griffin, Quentin Dunbar, Marquise Blair, and Diggs and Jamal was going to be the sickest shit on paper. And you know what? They actually didn't play bad when they were all healthy together, which wasn't very often because Quentin and Jamal and Shaquille all got hurt that year. But I feel that same, like, that energy. Like, yo, if these guys is healthy, it could come together. But I mean, yeah, I'm counting on a rookie and a second-year guy, and I'm trusting the team to put Jamal in position to succeed. So that's kind of tough. But that's my positive one that I'm a little worried about. All right. So should I do both, or you gonna go?
It's up to you. You want to go? You want to just finish it out?
Go ahead. Do your positive take that you're a little worried about.
The positive take I'm worried about is Jamal Adams has figured out he's better in pass plays, passing downs. He is improved. He's much better. He's not isolated where, Adrian Broner has a great line where, after I think it was a sparring session. I might have been at a match. He says, I'm getting cooked. I don't want to see Jamal Adams out there getting cooked. We all know he can cover, but teams were able to, they play a little chess, and the Seahawks are playing checkers, and they were able to counter some things. So my hope, I'm hopeful that Jamal is healthy, A, and B, he can go out there and compete to the level that we know he can, because he can cover. He just got put in, rough scenarios where maybe player A didn't do their part, and Jamal is getting the blame. So hopefully the greatness of Jamal can make up for that. Because when you're great, it don't even matter. Like, some guy can screw up because Jamal is so damn good, he makes the play anyway, right? That is one of my hopeful takes that possibly could be wrong, and I'm hoping I'm right.
Okay. That's a good one, too. Yeah. I think that Jamal is still such a polarizing guy, man. There's so many takes around him that we still need Jamal on the show, by the way.
We're working on it.
yeah, definitely working on it. Quandre, it's on you, man. Help us out. My negative take that I hope is wrong is that the quarterbacks will be good. I mean, that's for real. I really cannot stress enough, man. And I feel like people get on me about this and call me all super negative, and I get it, but it's like quarterbacks don't morph into new dudes. They really do not. It's not like the NBA where you can be a guy that averages 12 points and then just jump out to 25 or something like that. Is there a most improved award in the NFL?
Yeah. Sorry. No, my bad. I thought you were gonna say NBA. I'm like, how you know this? No, my bad.
Yeah. See, I feel like if that was the case in the NFL, it would very rarely go to a quarterback switching teams. It can go to a quarterback, but I don't think it would go to a quarterback switching teams. I think if
they do it every NFL team's most improved player. So every team gets that award.
Okay,
I believe
that's fine. But like you get my point though. Like I don't think that if they were to just adopt that in the NFL, it would almost never go to a quarterback who has switched teams. And I mean, you started in one place, you were starter, and you have since become a starter somewhere else. Like that. And so it's a I think the only time it would have done that is Ryan Tannehill in 2019. I think that's the only time it would have worked in the last 20 years or something like that. It maybe 22 years. I have to go back and look at some of those mid 2000 seasons when I was in elementary school. But you guys get my point. It would very rarely go to a quarterback switching teams because you can grow within your own system, like duh. But I think asking guy who stunk here to be great somewhere else, it just doesn't work like that. I'm telling you this, and it's not just because I'm hating. Again, these guys are a lot more polished than guys coming into the league in 1988. They've watched more film. They've done more throws. They're familiar with more routes. They've seen more defenses. There's just all of these different things. Not to say that guys don't get better, but they don't make huge jumps like the average guy switching teams. You usually just do not see that. So if you're asking me to anticipate Drew or Geno becoming an entirely new guy, that's tough. That's a tough sell for me. I hope I am wrong about that. The season will be much better for me. My job will be far more enjoyable if I am wrong about that. That's my negative take. That man, it's people get mad at me when I say that too, and it's like, dog, because Josh Allen's hot right now, so it's like, Mike, what about Josh? I'm like, guys, Josh is a freaking unicorn. And even Ryan Tannehill jumped in mid-season and tore it up, and then came right back down to earth the very next year when he was a full-time starter when they had all that tape on him in 2020, and then 2021 he did the same thing. He's the same guy he was in Miami. Basically a lot of the numbers are right on par if you exclude that 2019 season that was an outlier. So, yeah, and other than that, how many guys were a starter, switch teams, who switched teams lately as a starter? Phillip Rivers was pretty much the same guy when he left San Diego. Sam Darnold was pretty much the same guy when he left the Jets. Who else didn't switch? Plenty of guys that didn't switch teams. You're just the same guy. Russell's going to be the same guy he was. Mitch Trubisky's largely going to be the same guy watching Pittsburgh. He's going to be the same guy he was in Chicago, by and large, give or take a few numbers. Kirk Cousins, pretty much the same guy he was in Washington, man. the Vikings just paying him an arm and a leg. So I hope I am wrong. I hope that Geno looks like a Pro Bowler again because I need my 100 from Chris. So I hope Geno looks like a Pro Bowler in 2022. You know, I'm a little worried, or not a little worried. I just think that I'll be right on it, but I'm very glad to be wrong on that take.
I'm right there with you, man. Quarterback play is you go from Russell Wilson to Geno and Drew. Yeah, that's tough, man. Yeah, you hit it right. So we'll move on there. If the Seahawks, and this one is from, I'm just gonna say Aki. It's Akki. So I think it's Aki, like Aki Karosi, but I could be completely wrong. I guess this person will let me know. If the Seahawks sneak into the postseason but lose in the conference championship, is that a successful season accounting for draft picks? This is assuming Drew Lock or Geno play at a level close to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, that's easily a successful season. I do want to caution against the Jimmy G comparisons there. Jimmy G was decent, but again, that team was loaded on defense, and their O-line was nasty. They had multiple Pro Bowlers and all-pro caliber players on their defense. Nick Bosa looked like freaking Lawrence Taylor for a second there, like rushing the passer. He has that one play where he ducks under the jumps over the chop block and then intercepts the ball and then runs it the other way, all like right at the line. Like, come on, man. It's God level shit. So defense, that team was nasty on defense. They had all pro pass catchers. They had a nasty O-line. It wasn't just that the team was okay around Jimmy. It was elite around him, just like it was last year. So yeah, that's a wildly successful season. Everybody gets a raise if that happens. Pete Carroll's a freaking genius if that happens. Like, his legacy is already solidified, but I think like he goes into a new tier if A, he rebuilds the defense to being elite, and B, he goes and wins double-digit games without Russell Wilson. Because I don't think he's ever done that. Pretty sure, as a head coach in the NFL. At least not with the Seahawks. I can't remember with the Jets or whatever. But yeah, if he does that, Pete Carroll is just evil genius if he manages either of those two feats.
This one is from Hawks fan 2-0, not 0, 2. The letter O, 6. That's fire. Schneider didn't sound overly optimistic when talking about BBK in a post-draft presser. Do you have a sense of the feeling on whether he's going to be in the mix and competing to be on the 53?
Yeah, I don't think BBK. I just don't think there's room for him there. I think that if Cody's capable, he's got that locked down, and if not, they got Iggy from the Bears, and I even think like guys like John Radigan are more likely to step in there. Then you got Jordan Brooks. I just think there's like 2 inside linebacker spots up for, and then there's 2 backups. And I just think they've got guys that are gonna beat him out there. It's interesting with BBK because he's a really good athlete. Tested really well coming out of school, even though he's a guy who's pretty small for inside linebacker, about 6 foot 230. That's pretty small. But to be that size and be that athletic, you would think he can hang. But I just don't see it. I just think that you don't get the playing time, then you get hurt. This is the type of scenario where a guy just falls out of the rotation, man, which you don't want to see, even though BBK went to the worst college in America. You really just don't want to see that. But I think if you ask me, that's the reality of the situation. I will correct myself from the previous question. Pete did win 10 games in 1997. That is his only Russell Wilson-less double-digit win season. So we'll see. We'll see if he can do it again. That was with the Patriots in 97.
This question is from Eric. Who is holding up the DK Metcalf contract extension? Is it DK's side or is it the Hawks front office?
Oh, hey, they had Drew Bledsoe that year. That's why. Go Cougs. Who was holding up the DK discussions? I'm not really sure anybody's holding it up necessarily. The Seahawks have a timeline they usually follow. They usually pay their guys in August and late July. This is just normal. Jamal Adams, Justin Britt, Cam Chancellor, Bobby, Russ, Jamal Adams. I say Tyler Lockett. I think he got his first deal around in like August. Dwayne Brown. Yeah, this is kind of how they do business. That's their schedule. And if you're DK, there's really no reason to sign before Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel. There's just no reason. I mean, unless is he hurting for cash? Maybe then yeah. But I don't think I don't know. I'm not going to count DK's pockets, but he seems like a pretty smart guy with his finances. I don't think he's hurting for cash, right? So he doesn't need to sign tomorrow and get that first signing bonus check. So yeah, I think if you wonder why that hasn't happened yet, neither side needs to be in a rush. They both want to. They know that they're going to need to come to an agreement eventually. They kind of probably both know a ballpark number of what's going to get it done. No reason to rush. They can, go on their little boat cruises and drink and party all summer. Come back around, July 20th, whatever, before training camp starts and say, hey, DK, would you like $26 million a year on paper? Yes. All right, cool. Signed. Then we get the details of it from Pro Football Talk, and it's like, oh, this is really a 3-year, 21. That's probably how it's going to be shaped out. A.J. Brown's deal is really only like a 3-year, 19 and some change, really, if you look at the guarantees and the structure of the deal and some of those base salaries that balloon later in the deal. It's really just like a 3-year, $60 million commitment, which is about what what Chris Godwin got and what Mike Williams got. And I think DJ Moore is in that same range too. So I think DK on paper will get like a 4-year, $105 million or whatever, but then we'll get the details of it, and it'll look just like Tyreek Hill's or Devontae Adams' deals, where both of them are really just like Devontae's is like a 3-year, 22, in terms of the guarantees. And I think Tyreek's is pretty similar. I think it comes out to like a 3-year, 23 mil per year, which I could see that for DK. But if his agent wants to tack on 2 more years and give him big ass base salaries to make it look like DK is the highest paid receiver ever, that's probably what it look like on paper. And then in reality, it'll look a little bit more normal once we get the details.
This one is from Chihuahua Loco. What decision-making processes are affected by a sale of the Seahawks?
That's a really good question. I think contracts, like the Seahawks, well, first off, will the new ownership, if they sell, which I think a sale is going to happen sooner rather than later, if the Seahawks are sold, will that new owner give Pete the benefit of the doubt if Pete's still here? Because right now Pete's a Super Bowl winning coach. He gets the benefit of the doubt from Jody Allen. Hey, man, you built it once. It kind of went the wrong way for a little bit. I trust you to build it again. Will the new ownership give John and Pete that benefit of the doubt? That's one. 2, the second thing will be contracts. If you notice that if they change out Pete and John, did they change out Matt Thomas, who does all their contracts? The Seahawks are one of those teams that kind of have things that they stick by. All their contracts look pretty much the same. They don't have a lot of workout bonuses. They have a certain guaranteed schedule. You'll see guys getting certain amounts of their contract guaranteed for injury at the signing. And then the next, 5th day after the league year starts or whatever nonsense, that's when more of the money becomes guaranteed. The structures are pretty normal. They're pretty routine and don't really differentiate from that. A lot of this comes out whenever Russell Wilson's agent tried to get him some random ass thing that no one ever gets. And the Seahawks well, no, man, we do our deals a certain way. That could change with new ownership. New ownership could be let's just get all wild with it. We'll give whoever we want, whatever we want. No precedents being set matters to us, stuff like that. So I think, the front office stuff, I mean, a few things could be impacted. You could get how political the team is willing to be, they're doing mental health is not necessarily super political, but they got pride stuff, mental health stuff. They have the Seahawks social justice and equity fund. All of that stuff has to be ran by ownership. What guests you're willing to bring to the facility. Does a Jordan Peterson get to come, with new management, or you get more left-leaning people or right-leaning people? All that is an ownership, type of vibe, all of that. So, I mean, even the cheerleaders and stuff, aren't they called the Seahawks dancers now or something like that? And they got men on the team. I'm pretty sure they're not just the Seagals anymore. I'm pretty sure they've rebranded to include men and be more inclusive and not just be a bunch of half-naked chicks, at football games. I'm pretty sure that's an ownership decision. They have a female owner, So I think there's a ton of things. We could make a whole pod about it, but those are the ones that jump off right away. Free agent spending. The owners got to be like willing to be like, hey, go ahead, go crazy in free agency if that's what the team needs, or don't. Some owners like to fall back. Some owners is right there in the draft room. Some owners talk after every game like Jerry Jones. So I think, a ton of that stuff. Everything from the day-to-day operations, from how the team is branded, how vocal the team is in times of like, whether it's a cop killing somebody or a mass shooting like the one just happened while we're recording right now. How vocal the owner chooses to be. Jody Allen don't say anything about anything. Ever, for better or worse. That changes with a new owner, maybe. So, all of that stuff. But in terms of the team, I think contract spending, free agency stuff, and giving Pete and John the benefit of the doubt are the two or three biggest categories that have the chance to make the biggest impact if they are changed with new ownership. That's a great question by that person, by the way.
This one is from QM Tablet. Got it right. Do you think the fan base got spoiled by the run of success from 2012 to 2016?
I think part of the fan base, yeah. I think a lot of new, like 12s, quote unquote. Yeah, if you came in around that time, and if you notice, a lot of international fans will say like, hey, we're from Germany, we're from Brazil, we're from Spain, we're from London or whatever. We rock with the Seahawks because around 2012, they was the hot thing. They was on whatever network was broadcasting NFL games in their country at the time, and the Seahawks were always on. They were cool, so that's why they rocked with them. Like, yes, I think if you hopped in around that time, or even if you came in like just when Pete came, 2010, yes, I think so, because they were just so unprecedented. The run that they had, as good as their defense was over multiple years, that's rare as hell. Usually you don't get a defense that's like that dominant in today's era for that long. You get like the 2019 Patriots, I think, or you get like the 2017 Jags, 2015 Broncos. See how I'm naming 1 year? Seahawks is like, nah, the 2012 to 2016 Seahawks defense was nasty as hell. So yeah, I think to some extent, yes. That's a small group of fans though. I would say that represents about 5% of the fan base. Most people been rocking for a while, or their parents been rocking for a while. They remember the 90s. That stunk. They remember Chuck Knox. They remember the Holmgren years. People who have that context understand like, hey, man, shit happens. They do. Like, we're not going to win 10 games every year. People who were around for the Holmgren era, again, Chuck Knox, the awful decade that was the 90s of Seahawks football, they know, hey, man, ebbs and flows. We're going to suck for a little bit. We might get good. We might suck. We might get good. We're not just going to win 10 games every year. So I think, yes, a certain portion of a fan base has. I think a lot of people who have like migrated to Seattle in recent years because of our like tech boom with, Amazon and, Google and all these other techie companies that are all here. I think like Zillow's here, like, got T-Mobile, all this tech money, GeekWire, whatever, tons of tech people have come here in the last decade plus. I think if you've come here and become a Seahawks fan in that time, then yeah, you're probably spoiled because that's all you know. Winning is all you know. Meanwhile, there's some folks who grew up watching the Seahawks in the 90s who were like, boy, let me tell you, we was ass. It's like
4-12.
Bro, I think the year Cortez Kennedy won Defensive Player of the Year, the Seahawks won 2 games.
Yeah, 2-14, I think that was.
Yeah, man. Like that, it was rough. It was rough out here. And people who, and me and you were both born in 92. Like, and we still know that. So I think people who are around a little bit longer understand that context. I think who was it? It was Sherm who called fans spoiled, or him and Cliff. I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like I disagree with that. But I understand how it can feel that way online. Online has a lot of newer fans. You get out here in these streets, you get around the people, and you meet a lot of people who remember the 80s and 90s of Seahawks football and the Holmgren era. It could put in context what's going on now. It's not just a bunch of 12s who came around 2010 who are like, hey, how come we not winning the Super Bowl every year? It can feel like that online, though, and I understand that. But that's not the reality.
This one's from Pat McCarran. Have you watched The Sound of the Seahawks on YouTube? Can we talk about Schneider sweat patches?
I did watch The Sound of the Seahawks, the little documentary that they're producing. I am not a big fan of the in-house, quote unquote, behind the scenes content because it's not objective, right? It's like producing a documentary on your own life. It's like, well, it's going to have a slant, like that was a lot of people's beef with The Last Dance and Michael Jordan. It was like, Michael Jordan EP'd the doc, executive produced. He EP'd the doc. So like, of course it's going to be like a super heavy Mike slant. I think Tom Brady might have done the same thing for his thing that I didn't watch on ESPN. Like, I'm not a big fan in general of the in-house content. I'm just going to watch it, laugh at a few things, point out any cool nuggets that I find. But in general, I just know you guys are leaving out the good stuff. I know you are, because that's what anybody would do when they produce their own content about themselves, like peeling back the curtain. The last thing Pete wants is the curtain peeled back.
Yeah.
No, that's why I didn't want to be a Hard Knocks.
That was going to be my next point.
Yeah. So I wish, have they announced the Hard Knocks team?
Yes, it is damn it. It was an interesting team.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to look it up real quick.
Yeah, it's not super important. But yeah, I watched it. I encourage you guys to all go watch it. I was not entertained by it, but I don't need to be. I just need to watch it. So
it's the Arizona Cardinals.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I don't think that's that interesting. But,
damn, Mike. I was excited to see Kyler, but I guess not. Mike's like, ew.
Yeah,
forgive me. D-Hop on the drugs. I want to see what he got to say. I'm sure they're going to be like, so what's up, man? He might get a few one-on-ones. I think I'm excited for it. JJ Watt. What? Are you kidding me? What are you talking about, Mike? I'm on my Stephen A right now. What are you talking about? What is wrong with you?
I think the product's too watered down, man. I just think that teams know how to give HBO just enough to feel compelling without giving us really anything at all. So yeah, I just don't think it'll ever be what it really could be. So yeah, that's all. I actually don't really enjoy Hard Knocks that much. So
yeah, it's gotten. I think it's been pretty bad the last time it was good when I was at WSU. So 2013 to 2016. I don't remember what teams were on there, but I thoroughly enjoyed those. But neither here nor there. I didn't enjoy them that much that I can't remember them. So
I think I remember the one. I like the Dolphins one. Maybe that's because we got to see Ocho Cinco get cut.
Oh, I think that was when I was at WSU. Yeah,
that was wild. But since then, I haven't really enjoyed any of them.
The drama that ensues.
It's not even really good drama like that. It's just
I hear you. All right, last one comes from Holly at Hallberry03, big supporter of the pod and the radio show. Shout out to you, Holly. What's one thing you guys are looking forward to seeing within this new era of the Seahawks this season?
That is Holly's closing this out with a bang there. So I think that I am most interested in just seeing if we get any superstar, or like if we get like a superstar personality vibe from this team. Because I think just in the macro sense, it's very hard to be a superstar in the NFL because when you are most visible to people, which is when you're on the field, you have your face is covered. So it's just hard, So you really got to be a transcendent person, not just a talent. Aaron Donald, I don't think is a superstar like person. You know what I mean? Very similar like Mike Trout in baseball. Mike Trout could come in here right now. I'd be like, hey, are you here? Are you DoorDash? Unless he's wearing his jersey. I don't really know Mike Trout like that. Whereas Odell Beckham walking like, oh, you're Odell Beckham Jr. I recognize you from insert commercial here. Peyton Manning, stuff like that. So like that was a really fun part of that Seahawks era was that, these people legit. Richard Sherman's a superstar. Like you see him in a suit in a Target in Minneapolis, people are like, yo, that's Richard Sherman. Same thing with Marshawn Lynch. Like they were legit. And then Russell Wilson. That era, I think, in terms of just like personality, that produced real deal superstars. And it just gave the whole energy of the team just life. It gave the whole team a personality on top of having a star coach. Every NFL coach is not a star. Pete Carroll is a legit celebrity. Like he's a celebrity. Like he is. So that's what makes. I just think that was a really cool part that we appreciated in real time. But like, if you really weren't even in football, it was even more apparent that like, yo, these guys are legit stars. Like Richard Sherman's a superstar, Marshawn Lynch superstar, Russell Wilson superstar. If that happens again, that would be really cool to just be around. Like they already have one. Like DK Metcalf is a very recognizable human. independent of his ability to play football. He's one. If that happens again, that would actually be pretty cool. It'd just give the whole team life. It'll kind of put the city on the map again. That'll be pretty dope. I don't know who those guys would be. I guess I got to say who they would be now. If I guess, I think Gerald Taylor would be one.
I knew you were going to guess that. I knew it.
Gerald Taylor's got. I mean, Jamal Adams would probably be the other one. But like the world got to see these guys. The world got Marshawn Lynch. The world got Sherm. The world got Russ, for better or worse. Like if the world gets more Quandre Diggs funny as hell, man. Like if the world got more of him, that'd be cool. Jamal Adams too, So, yeah, that would be a fun thing to have, independent of how good or bad they are on the field. Like the personality. This team having personality, that would be pretty dope.
One thing I'm looking forward to seeing within this new era is how Pete transitions this new wave of talent. We saw with the Legion of Boom and what he did. Well, now there's no more Legion of Boom. It's a new class. It's a new team. I am excited to see what Pete does with it, because one side, it could be, damn, this was, trading Russ was the worst thing ever. The other side is, oh my gosh, as you said, Pete is a genius. If this team excels and let's say they win 10 games and they're in the postseason without Russ, what does that tell you about philosophy, his coaching, what he's able to do defensively, giving up Bobby Wagner? All these things come into play. So that's what I'm excited in this first season without Russell, Bobby. Like, it's a new team. Just saying that out loud is like, damn, this is really a new team, and this is what I'm excited about. Like, this is going to be a fun season, regardless of the win-loss record. You pointed out just having faces to the Seahawks, like who are going to be these superstar players that wherever they go, that's so and so. Like the impact they make, because 9 times out of 10, if they're making that type of impact on and off the field, that means the Seahawks are playing pretty good in most aspects. It's very rare that you have a really, really bad team and you have superstars that are known. Man, I guess maybe that's not too true, but you get where I'm going with.
Well, you get like a Tebow. Although he was really famous in college. Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, and he was famous because of all his.
He was famous in college as well too. Like you get, he had famous in college first.
Yeah, so I guess maybe my point does stand. Like if you're a really bad team, it's really tough for you to be known everywhere. Especially from in that city. But I'm excited to see what Pete does with this, man. It's a new team. It really is, top to bottom.
I think I'm in that same boat. Maybe not as excited is the word, but I am curious because Pete, like I said, Pete Carroll has an ability to go into another level of football god status if he builds 2 different contenders doing like zigging while everyone else is zagging. Like that's pretty crazy to trade. If he trades a franchise QB and Russell Wilson away, rebuilds an entire defense and makes it elite again, best coach of all time. That like he can get in that conversation. I don't know if I have to do some more research on that, but like I think right now it's like by and large Bill Belichick, but he catches him in terms of degree of difficulty. I think for me to tear that down and rebuild, like that's pretty nuts, man. If he's able to do that, like if he's right about Russ, if he's right about the running the ball, if he could just make a new Legion of Boom, yeah, no, that dude, best coach ever. He's in that discussion if he can do that.
Oh my God!
If he does that,
I lied. We have one more question. You texted it to me, and I forgot that you texted it to me earlier today. The question is, it's back to the defense real quick before we get out of here. Do you think Kobe Bryant and or Tariq Woolen could be starters this year? The quarterback room seems pretty weak. You didn't give me a name on it, but I'm guessing it was DM to you.
Yes, it was. I can't remember the name. My DMs are kind of a mess sometimes. But I think that, I think Kobe. I give Kobe till like week 6. And I think he's probably in the lineup. I think that kid is just too polished. I think Clint Hurt mentioned something the other day where he was like, that kid just doesn't panic with the ball in the air, man. Like he like some guys like, panic. Like Kobe doesn't. And he's just solid. And he's been pro groomed for a long time. I did a lot of research on Kobe for a story I'm working on now, man. And like he grew up around Ted Ginn Sr., went to the same high school as Ted Ginn Jr., Marshawn Lattimore, Frank Clark, a bunch of other guys that went to the school Glenville in Ohio. Like, it's a powerhouse. Like, he grew up around pros. Kobe's brother was in the NFL, played for the Rams, played for the Cardinals, played for the Giants. Like, he's just been around pros and has been training like a pro his whole life. Like, legitimately been around pros his whole life. So I just think he's too polished on top of just being a good player. Like, he was the best DB in college football, arguably, last year. It's not easy to do. So yeah, I think that he by week 6 or 7, he'll be in the lineup. I think, because me and Chris play flag football. And it's not the exact same on the weekends, but like, we can understand the difficulty of when the ball's in the air, the natural inclination to just panic because you can't see it. Your back's to it, and to routinely be elite at that particular thing, like, it's all about the ball. He's gonna get his hands on the ball in the pros, and if he does that, he'll be playing. Of all the rookies that aren't Charles Cross, I feel very good about Kobe being the guy who by the end of the year is a starter.
Well, there you have it, folks. A long one at that, but hell, we haven't talked to you guys in a month, so we hope
we've been gone for so long. Yeah, we had to give him long show. Yeah,
we appreciate you guys tapping in with another episode of Seahawks Man to Man. We will come back with more because we're ramping up again for this. We're getting ready to kick things off. It's next thing you know, it'll be August. Next thing you know, it'll be game time, and it'll be. I know Mike says doesn't know if he's excited, but we're excited for this podcast. We're excited that we'll be on the radio on Saturday. So
yes,
you guys be sure to tune in to that. And we're almost to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. So let's get there. Right now we're at 20. We're at 2,955. So let's see if we can
run that up, baby.
Let's see if after this video we can get it to 2,920. Wow, my brain! I just brain farted. 2,000.
3K. We just need to get 3K. That's it.
There you go. Let's just go aim for 3K. Mike, anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, shout out to everybody tuning in. Like I said, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 more episodes in June before we cool down a bit. Probably sneak a guest in there. Come back to you after minicamp. Shout out to everybody who's been tuning into the Hype with Chris and Mike on 933 FM KJR Saturdays from 9 to 11. Appreciate the love. We'll be there all summer, so keep rocking with us. We'll be back. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to get a guest for us on our next one. So stay tuned. We'll bring that back maybe in a couple weeks.
On that note, we will catch you guys later. We out.